Welcome to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along to the right.
And I'm Ted Bannock. I love talking about cards.
Grant, what do we got going on today?
Well, today we're going to talk about some of the new spoiled cards that's just come from the Concerning Hobbit spoiler release from the Shadow in the East, I believe the expansions.
Yeah, the expansion. The I think the box is the Vengeance of, or is that the cycle? The cycle is the Vengeance of Mordor.
The box, the Shadow in the East.
Yep, right. Shadow of the East, new deluxe expansion to kick off a new cycle.
Yeah, first of all, awesome. Can't wait to get that. So that's going to be cool. But so, what card are we going to talk about here today?
We are going to be talking about the new contract card, Fellowship. The first side, it says,
which is a great spoiler. It's a double-sided contract card.
Yeah, it's a brand new card type that's being introduced to the game, much like when they introduced side quests. This is like a brand new mechanic or player card to the game.
Yeah, it states you cannot play non-unique allies or put non-unique allies into play. When you control exactly 9 unique characters, flip this card over.
And then you flip it over once you have the 9 unique, and what does that say?
It says you cannot play allies or put allies into play. Each character you control gets +1 attack, willpower, and defense, and it has a forced ability. After a character you control leaves play, flip this card back over.
Okay. The only thing that I'm gonna lead the conversation with here is that I don't see. Is this going to be a normal player card that comes out in the deck, or is this going to be like a setup card where you keep you find the contract at the beginning of the game and it doesn't count against you, as one of your 50 cards or more? I'm curious what you guys think about that.
Well, I'd say it would make it more interesting if it came out as part of a setup, because then you would actually have to build a deck around the quest you're going to do. I can see benefits to both.
Yeah. Ted, what do you think?
Yeah, I would imagine Grant's speculation is correct. The article itself that released today, at the time we're recording this, it doesn't have any type of really information about the contracts, other than the both sides of the card, and it's there's no cost printed on it, so I imagine it's going to be a starts in play type of effect where you set it next to your threat meter or something like that. I'm sure it will instruct you.
Maybe like those encounter player cards, like the wind of the sea, where the Ranger of the North comes into play, and the Eagles of the North. Like you set those aside or something. Or
it could be like the campaign scenarios that sit by the quest deck to instruct you on what to do.
Yeah, something along those lines. Where I feel like because you're gonna build your deck around this card. And it's pretty. It'll open up a lot of new doors, I think, to new deck building strategies. I think it could even take old archetypes and maybe even give you a fresh way to play them. For example, you could take the dwarf archetype and try to play only unique dwarf allies.
Thorin Company,
right? Yeah,
you could do the Thorin and Company. I was trying to get a mono tactics Hobbit deck going, and it just seemed to not get going. This could be one of those cards that helps that thing get going. Here's the question for you guys, though. Does this change the meta of deck building and how the game is played?
If it's part of the player card pool, I would definitely say yes. If it's going to be one of the likes of set up for certain quests that each player can pick a contract to follow throughout the next cycle, then I'd say possibly not. It just brings a new way of focusing on deck building. I don't think it would so much change the meta of the game.
What do you think, Ted?
Yeah. What's really interesting too is, it's the name of this contract is Fellowship, and it's not unique. So it's not limiting if you have a multiplayer game. Multiple people can build around the same contract.
Right.
And I think
Unless there's something in the rules handout that says one contract per game or something like that.
Yeah, true.
But as it stands at the minute, there's no unique symbol on there, and there's also no article to go with it. So this is all just speculation at this point.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a setup card. I think it's going to be like you can only have one of these in play, whether it's per person or per game or whatever.
Yeah, I mean it's double-sided, so there's really no place to you can't put it in your deck, right? Unless you have sleeves, and even then, so it's definitely going to come out during the setup. But yeah, this will open up a lot of new doors and give a fresh take to decks.
I think what this does is I think it's brilliant marketing, especially this particular card, because I think that this particular card says, hey, go back and play the campaign now with this in it. And I think that this is enough of a game changer for those decks that, like you said, Ted, that the decks will be changed to kind of meet that requirement of the contract, so that then now you'll change your deck enough that you can go back and play the campaigns with a different kind of Hobbit deck, or with the actual 9 walkers at some point. It'll be hard to do because Frodo and Aragorn switch in and out during the campaigns and stuff. But I think that this is enough of incentive to give people new life on kind of that old campaign thing.
So do you believe it's going to change the meta of the game like you posed to us then, David?
I don't think it's going to change deck building quite like things like Spirit Glorfindel did when Spirit Glorfindel came out. Like every deck for years had Spirit Glorfindel in it because it just was such a low... It was such a wonky card. It just changed. So I think it just depends on what the other contracts are. Now, Grant, you probably know this better than me, but and you can correct me after I say it, but I think there's only one contract ever mentioned in the whole of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, right? There's only the contract between Thorin and Bilbo.
As far as I can remember, you are correct.
So it'll be interesting to see what kind of other contracts they come up with, or if that,
unless you count the Fellowship itself in the Council of Elrond as a contract, even though it states you may go no further than you will.
Well, he specifically said that nothing but whatever there's no oath that will bind you, so
exactly. So unless you count that as itself a contract, the Fellowship.
Now that you bring that up, that's the one thing that bothers me the most about this is the card type, is the name of the card type. I don't really like the word contract because I don't feel it quite fits into the Tolkien universe.
Right.
David, you actually just now mentioned the word oath, and I think oath is also something that contract is something you fulfill.
Right.
And same thing, oath is also you. So I think that it could have been named a little bit differently. I'm not too keen on contract. I don't like to think of my deck as having a contract. It doesn't feel right.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see for what other contracts they bring out. to whether or not the contract type is the right sort of way to go.
What do you guys think about the fact that it's a double-sided card? This particular card, I mean, it appears that all contracts are going to be double-sided, but what do you think about this particular card and that it's double-sided and what it gives you and what, like, how do you feel about that mechanic, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I'll let Ted answer this first before I give my opinion.
You want to hear what he says?
It's it's neat. It gives you something to kind of achieve when you play your deck, and this particular one is, it's very restrictive. Not being able to play regular generic allies is pretty restrictive. So it makes me immediately start thinking of, well, if you can only play unique allies, those are kind of expensive generally.
Right.
There's a handful, including some ones that they spoiled in this article.
The Hobbit allies and stuff like that, right?
The Hobbit allies, Hanemarth River Song, the one cost unique lore ally comes to mind as being a cheap way to fulfill this. But then if you're also playing the cheap allies, the boost they're getting is not very effective. So if I'm playing Hanemarth River Song as part of my fellowship, I'm not going to use his boosted attack and defense.
Right.
He's just getting the one willpower out of it. But
Right.
if you have a unique character like Treebeard, ally Treebeard that is, he has a way to ready himself. So he could be utilizing his stats in a multitude of ways with his innate ability. And that could be quite powerful. The question is, how quickly can you get those allies on the board? To play 9, what's the average cost of that? Even if you're going to start with 3,
Right.
is what you got to play.
Unless you're playing Quick Beam. Remember, Quick Beam didn't have the unique symbol, right? Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
But it's also funny you mentioned Fellowship, David. That's actually a really great point because your Fellowship hero, being Frodo Aragorn, will actually make you one step closer off the bat to fulfilling this particular contract, which makes it very viable in Saga.
Well, what are some of the easy ways to get out? Like, forgetting stats, because I think that we could talk about stats all the time. What are some easy ways to get out a whole bunch of enemies or a whole bunch of unique allies? Immediately, I think Feely Keely. What were you going to say?
Well, just to point out, you only need to get out 6 unique allies,
Right.
because it says when you control exactly 9 unique characters.
Right. And so your heroes count. So how do you get to that magic number quickly?
Well, cheating ways, you've got things like Elrond and Vilya.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Elfstone.
This makes that look good, Elrond Vilya. What's the leadership one that's secrecy that I knew just a minute ago?
Timely Aid.
Timely Aid. So,
Timely Aid also, yeah.
What about?
Which could be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's really great if you decide to make your fellowship be hobbits and you're running secrecy.
Right. Well, what about Frodo? Spoiled in this article was that Frodo hero. So what if you have Frodo hero, Sam hero, and then the other spoiled in Smeagol, and then you have like Bill the Pony, and then because you have leadership, you now have Timely Aid, and then you can bring out Feely Keely. Well, so wait, like,
you know what?
I'm trying to think, like, you may be able to get 9 in one turn, maybe.
Oh, you could. I think you know what? Now that you bring up Sam's also got a Spirit Ally version. That says if you control Frodo, he only costs 1.
Right,
and then
you
I
need
think
the Spirit access. So who do you bring for Spirit?
Assume Spirit Frodo, or if you have the new leadership Frodo and any other Spirit character.
Right.
Right. And then you could actually play Bill the Pony. I think is also still free if you have Sam Gamgee ally.
Right. Any version of Sam.
There's 2 unique characters for 1 resource.
Right, and then if you, I'm trying to.
Arwen and Dominiers cost 2 spirit resources. So if you're running, say, triple spirit, you could possibly pull them out as well. Her out first turn as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think so I think that if you're just rushing to get 9 to fulfill, Feely and Keely count that's 3 resources. Bill and Sam, Bill the Pony and Sam, that's another 1 resource. So do you need leadership Denethor in there to get enough resources to do it? And then what's Timely Aid's restriction? What does Timely Aid say?
I don't have it up. I will pull it up.
I bet with the thing is if you use something like a Grima Denethor deck that I just happen to be using right now, that's just totally aggro with. Go ahead.
Reveal the top 5 cards of your deck and put 1 revealed ally into play. Shuffle all revealed cards back into your deck.
And how much does it cost? It's 4 secrecy
1.
3.
Yep, so it costs 1.
So it would cost 1 if you're in secrecy.
Yeah.
And then could you then
a very good tail?
Yeah, you could a very good tail in a couple of allies.
It's possible.
I was going to say, I think it may be more possible than I originally thought about it. Now that I'm
if you're willing to,
if you're willing to build for it.
If not the first turn, definitely either the second or third turn. You could have all 9 out.
Well, what about now? Let's really talk about it then. What do you do? What are you using this with? Like, what are you building a deck with this card as the contract? Like, really, when you see the contract, I'm excited to build a Hobbit deck with this because I think that it's the Hobbits that need that, and there's enough unique Hobbits that you can do it with maybe a little support from, an Ent or 2 or, something like that. But I think you can build a unique Hobbit deck that fulfills this pretty nicely and makes the Hobbit's really good.
There's a lot of ways to do it. You can, of course, you can always build for theme too. I think there might be a way to probably get the 9 walkers into a deck, I'm sure, between all their different ally and hero versions.
Right. You would have to do an Aragorn hero because Aragorn isn't an ally. So you'd have to
Frodo.
And I think
have an ally.
And I think you would have to do Aragorn. I think you would have to do, just because of the mechanics of the contract, you'd probably have to do hero Gandalf. Because you could play the unique one, but then the unique one's going to go away. The ally's going to go away at every turn. So it would be you wouldn't get the benefit.
You've always got Overhill and Underhill Gandalf.
Yeah, but if you're running 29 threat, you're only still going to keep them out a couple of, unless you're using Loragorn and you're using Loragorn's ability to. I don't know. I don't know if that's the way to go.
It's doable. I mean,
yeah. Well, Ted, you're the expert on Hero Gandalf. I saw that you kind of gave me an eye look when I said Hero Gandalf, as opposed to, like, if you're trying to do the 9 walkers,
I'd have to sit down and really kind of suss it out. But it lends itself to a lot of theme and it's a lot of power too, because you asked, like, what is the deck trying to do? If you're building a deck that's more of a questing support role, or that's plus 9 willpower. If you have 9 characters on the board, that's a lot. That's like, imagine just on the 3rd turn playing an ally that says, "I have 9 willpower."
Right.
That's really up there.
Right.
Or even just boosting your attack, having so many characters having all their stats increased.
I'm just thinking of the Harad allies getting a boost.
Like Furial and Khalil.
Furial,
Yazan,
and Yarzon getting that +1 boost to each one of their stats. Then makes Ever Vigilant or Grim Resolve or other cards that allow readying of allies to be that much more potent, like Sparehood and Cloak.
Yeah, I'm still back at trying to get I'm sorry, I don't mean to not engage in that. I'm still trying to figure out, can we get the 9 walkers out? Well, because in the spoiled pack we have an ally Pippin and an ally Merry.
Yeah.
And I think that solves the problem, ignoring all the, I think there's allies of everything else, right? There's ally Legolas, there's ally Gimli, there's
the trick will be is you need
There's
Yeah,
ally
you
Boromir.
need tactics to get ally Legolas and ally Boromir.
Not if you're using Gandalf.
Not if you're using Gandalf. It's true.
Also
You're absolutely right.
And also not if you've got Elfstone. Could cheat them out.
Elfstone sneak attack, right?
Yeah.
You can sneak attack, but I think you would want to do it permanently, right? You're trying to get these guys out.
You could sneak
permanently.
attack to get it for that one turn, though. You know,
Yeah.
that could be very potent. All of a sudden, you sneak attack in an ally, and now you fill the contract, so it flips over. And then at the end of the turn, of course, the ally, or at the end of the phase, the ally returns. You lose the bonus, but then if you're able to play that ally next turn because it survived the round, you'll have it. Absolutely.
I'm the limit is the limitation worth the benefit. So the limitation on side A for this particular one is that you can't play non-unique allies, or you can't put them into play. So you have to.
You cannot play non-unique allies or put non-unique allies into play.
Right, and it doesn't limit you to what. Not, I mean, all this talk about, getting all the dwarves out or all the 9 walkers out. Like that's our own construct, but it doesn't. But it's still, you have to only, if you're using that contract, that's what you're stuck using all unique things.
Yep.
It doesn't limit you to trait or anything like that. It's just literally you have to use the unique cards.
The benefit, though, David, and what you're asking, I think I certainly see it. Like I said, getting an extra 9 attack, 9 defense, or 9 willpower, or really all of those stats are being boosted is quite powerful, especially if you have action advantage on your heroes, through unexpected courage or wingfoot or all the crazy ways that I can't name to ready your heroes. So I mean, and you'll have extra copies of your unique characters in your deck, but sometimes they do die. Treacheries will discard them from play. Bad shadows will kill your defenders.
Oh, you know what I just thought of, guys? This ups the stakes for all those treacheries that do crazy stuff to ally. Like discard out. Sleeping Sentry was horrible, but it's even horribler. More horrible with this thing out into play, like anything that you're losing the ability, if you want to fulfill the contract, you're losing the ability to chump block, right? Like, I mean, this is hand tying you somewhat, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. And I mean, you're committing to, and there's ways to resource accelerate and cheat allies into play, like Grant said, Villia. But I mean, you need to play 6 allies unless you're playing Saga, and at the minimum, those are going to cost. Well, I guess there's Henemarth at 1, but they're going to cost 2. Most of them are going to cost 2.
Right.
So that's
At
12.
least.
That's 12 resources.
Right.
To get to this, like not counting
tricks and
tricks.
special, right?
But you can always resource accelerate to get them, and then you have to draw them. You have to draw that many different unique allies. So you're probably actually going to have, you're not just going to have 6 allies in your deck that are unique. You're probably going to have a whole bunch of different unique allies, and there's,
What's the quest that kills you for having multiple copies of something in your discard pile? Whatever quest that is. This is like that deck is the deck that you put this card into, right? Like it's one of those in the Angmar Awaken cycle or something where, like Druidan Forest, or it's one of those, I think, in there that's
yeah.
Forest.
It's
or maybe it's the one before in the Ringmaker cycle. I don't know. It's
Angmar Awakened cycle with the undead cards. They punish you for having copies of allies in your discard pile.
Faradir or whatever. Yeah. But that's not this. This is tech. You just play all the allies and you go from there. And so that way you only have 1 copy of each thing. I mean, so. Do people build decks around this card?
Go ahead. If it's a contract that you select at the beginning of a quest, and you're introducing it to old or new quests, then yes, you build around the contract you're going to select. If it's part of the active scenario where you have a certain contract to fulfill to win the game with it active, then yes, you build around it. But
Oh, imagine if this was only active for like one stage of the quest.
That would be awful.
Would it be awful? Or would it be another limit? You think it's good just for the whole thing?
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, a player card, and as soon as you meet the requirement, and as long as you can hang on to the requirement, you get the benefit.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, conjecture is a lot of fun with these things. And so
Mm-hmm.
Grant and I purposely avoided any conjecture on contracts because it was just such a wide open space to develop. But now that we
Right.
see it, it's like, okay, well, what, so
what can we do? What can't we do? How is it going to work?
So I kind of circle back to my original question now that we've talked about these contracts for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes. Like, does this change the meta? Like, is everybody going to bring contracts to their Gen Con quests or to their Gen Con decks when they come, or the Con of the Rings decks? Or is it just going to be one type of deck now that we've kind of...
You know
I
what?
feel like it doesn't fit into every type of deck, obviously. There's the Hero Voltron deck that this isn't going to work with, but I feel like a lot of decks can have 6 allies pretty easily,
Sure.
right? Like, I don't know. Like,
Pardon my interruption, David,
No,
but I was
go ahead.
actually just perusing the article, and apparently we didn't read it in much detail because there's more information here than I thought.
Go
I'm
for
going to
it.
read a phrase. It says, contracts are never included in a player's deck and do not count towards the player's minimum deck size.
I was right.
Instead, each player may choose one contract to put into play along with their heroes at the beginning of the game,
Okay.
with its A side face up. And then when certain conditions are met, it's flipped and you unlock its special abilities.
Okay.
Okay, so that reaffirms what I was saying about how it would change. That gives me more clarity on how the meta would change. You select your contract, you build your deck around the contract that you're going to use for a certain quest.
Yep.
So, based on what we've seen for this contract, and only this contract, because this is the only contract we know that's coming out, I'd say most people would probably not use it because of the fact that it limits the deck so much. To like the fact of having only, like, say, for whatever reason, 6 unique heroes, 6 unique characters plus your heroes out, it limits what the deck can do. I'm not saying all people would do that, but majority of players like swarming the board.
Yeah, I think that I kind of agree with that in a lot of ways because it's like, I think that there will be, of course, there's always like the new hotness that comes out, and people will be playing contracts, and people will be like, "Oh, this is really cool," and and people will put together contract decks. But I'm not sure if it's going to take over. I'm like Ted. You said at the very beginning that is the juice worth the squeeze? You didn't say it quite like that, but that's what it is. Is the
That's how I
juice
meant
worth
to say it.
right?
I
Is
meant
the
to
juice
say,
worth,
is the juice worth the squeeze?
right? Well, that's really what it is.
I'd say
Is the +1/+1/+1 worth all to every character? Is that enough, or are there times when you need 12 characters on the board, or or do you prefer to run with a bunch of other stuff? I don't know. Like, I think that this isn't a meta changing. I think that this just defines a new deck type, I think, is where I'm going with it.
I think, in all honesty, it depends on what quest you're building for. If you're building for a quest that you know that you get punished for having a swarm of allies out, then you might want to build more towards having the fellowship, like this contract build. Or or for example, if you know you're going to need allies out, like the Massingers Gilead, where you're going to need allies to defend, allies to attack, and a whole host of other things, you might not want to choose the Fellowship contract. Battle for Lake Town's another one. You don't want to go in there with minimal allies. You want to go in there.
Mount Doom, right?
Yeah, exactly. But taking it for what it is, maybe going through the Black Rider scenario with the Fellowship cards, I can see that because, yes, there are some nasty enemies, but I think you could do that with the Fellowship contract with 6 unique allies or getting the boosts. But when you get swarmed with enemies, you're going to need that little bit of leeway to pull out your non-uniques to...
Right. I think what makes this particular card so amazing, and this is why I'm not a game designer, is that this particular card doesn't change the mechanics of us trying to get out enemies. All of those tricks that we've been using, not enemies, allies, all of those tricks that we've been using to kind of rush the board with allies, and the Villia deck that the C-Stand built, that was the one deck. I don't think he puts this in his one deck, because there's times where he's not going to ever use it, because it's more important to have all the allies out, but it doesn't change how we do it. It changes the reasons why we want to do it. And that to me is the brilliance of it. Is it's the weight. I've always said on this show that this game is like a poker game, where it's always about the decisions that you make and not about what other people do. And every time something like this comes out, it just makes your own decisions about deck building and about how you're going to do things. Like, what if you have the 9 already figured out? You have the 9 out, you fulfilled the contract, and then, well, I guess you can't play or put into play not any allies at that point. But what, what do you do to, the most, I don't know, like, there's got to be. I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore. So
I think, me personally, I think this would be a good idea for when you've got all your uniques out, and then you've got something like Gondorian Fire and the other one that came out with it that boosts attack, and the other one that boosts defense.
Blood of Numenor.
That's the one, Blood of Numenor.
Blood of Fire.
Yeah, and you just constantly ramping up those resources so that when you get a big beefy enemy that comes to hit you for, say, 9, and you've only got a defensive with 6 with this Fellowship contract, well, there you go, I use Gondorian Fire or whatever, or Blood of Numenor, and that deals with that defense. Now I just have to swing at you with, say, an 11 attack hero.
Yeah.
One of the ways you build it around, I think you have to build around this contract rather than just slipping it into any deck.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, it's certainly you're building around it, and I think it has power, but it's just going to scratch, I think, an itch that some players have. This particular contract, very thematic. But if you want to, David, you mentioned trying to fit it into a Hobbit deck. I think between all the unique Hobbits and all the unique Ents, you could probably have a Fellowship consisting of just Ents and Hobbits.
Yeah, I think so too. My Tactics Hobbit deck could really use this. I took it apart because it just wasn't. I couldn't quest with enough for this. But if I fulfill this in the first couple of turns, which I can get out, 3 or 4 or 5 allies in a couple of turns, then, I'm doing pretty good. But I have to build to that point. This is not one of those cards that's going to help you early game. I don't think.
It's going to probably... it's definitely one of those cards. I'd like to see more of the contracts before I define whether or not it changes the meta of deck building.
Well, that was going to be my other question, is now that we see this one kind of modeled for us, what are the other contracts that are going to be released? Like, what could you envision?
Speculation.
Right. What's your speculation, Ted? What do you think what could you see as a contract or two?
Yeah, it's really tough. I could see them doing something with spheres. I could see there being an opposite contract of this where you play no unique allies and you just have like generics in your deck or something like that.
Just
Um,
what about like attachment hoarder? You know, like I mean, you can have all sorts of like
yeah,
put
there could be
put 12 attachments on heroes you control.
yeah, there could be something like you must control uh different allies from different spheres, or you must control three attachments on each of your heroes,
Right.
something like that. And then when you flip it, you get some type of benefit where they can be
Right.
used again, or they're immune to
Right. Each attachment plus
effects,
one or something. Yeah.
or you reduce the cost of additional attachments you play. There's a lot of design space to there could be a contract around side quests that
Oh yeah.
it says like you can't quest against the main quest. However, when you complete 3 side quests, flip this over, and then it'll be like advance to stage 2 regardless of the condition or something.
Oh
You
right.
know,
Right. Skip the next stage or
it's
you
just
know because I guess it comes out at the beginning. You could control that you get through stage 1 or whatever.
yeah, some type of crazy effects like that
Now
playing
does
with
it
different kinds of player cards.
and so do you think it could both of you, this is a question to both of you. Do you think it matches kind of the mechanics of the game? Like, do you think that it would be like Traffic from Dale? I know that that's a card, but that's just what came to mind. You know, like Traffic
Mm-hmm.
from Dale, control 9 attachments on 3 different hero. You know, like then flip it over, and then, or do you think it's going to be something thematic within the game? Like this doesn't give me any indication whether it's going to be a game construct or a theme construct because it's I get that it's theme in the game, it's a theme from the book, but it's not necessarily, it's also a game construct because it's unique allies.
I,
It's 9 unique allies, which is a game construct. So I don't know.
I think it could be both a game construct and a theme construct. I think they've got enough leeway at the minute to do both. And I will refrain on speculating on where they would go with the contracts because of the fact that there is so much leeway. Um, I'd,
Yeah, but it's so much fun to guess, Grant. You're a spoil sport.
I'd like to see more, probably more focused on round, like sort of the Strider sort of deck where you're only running with a certain number of heroes, or where you are literally, well, yeah, just literally running with like 1 or 2 heroes, and you have to work with that.
Grant, that's a very good point. The Strider card, I can't remember everything that it does, but that was like a 1 cost unique attachment that said if you control
2 or fewer heroes, you don't exhaust a quest.
I'll,
And if you control 5 or fewer characters, every character gets +2, or the attached character gets +2, something like that.
That would be a great contract. That card itself could be reprinted as a contract or something, because right, that's an effect you would want. You're building towards that, right? If you're putting that unique card in your deck of Strider, you're going to only be playing with 2 heroes, and then you got to wait to draw that card. Now you have the chance of getting that effect, much more, a little more quickly. You don't have to fish the card out to get it.
Right. Yeah.
but I would like to see more built around that, like the secrecy outcome, the minimal hero aspect, because it's something that hasn't really, other than Strider, it hasn't really been explored by the game designers on decks running 2 or fewer heroes. It's just been there as a mechanic for secrecy.
And actually, the funny thing is I found that the best heroes that work in a a secrecy 2-hero deck are not built for secrecy. Like Gandalf is. Here we go, Ted. Back to Gandalf. But like Gandalf is a great 2-hero because he's good at everything and he's easy to ready. Shadowfax we just released on Shadowfax. Like it's easy to ready him and things like that. But it's like their threat cost doesn't lend itself to secrecy. So yeah, I mean maybe a rethinking of 2-hero decks. But it seems to me the overall goal is to not change the whole meta of the game, that everybody's going to have to run a contract, but to give you an option that's going to give you like achievement unlocked, right? You get to the achievement, you do it, but now you're stuck there, you're going to lose the bonus, right? I don't know.
Yeah, certain archetypes it doesn't lend itself well to, like this particular one. You wouldn't run this with like Dale because there's one unique Dale ally.
Right.
Right. And then
run it with a dwarf swarm either.
That's what some of the people were talking about in the chat rooms and Discord. They were like, well, if you have Spirit Dine out, or not Spirit Dine, but Purple Dine, and then you have dwarf swarms, like now you're talking each dwarf gets +2 willpower, +2 defense, and +1 attack. Like that's crazy.
A dwarf fellowship deck, because there's so many unique dwarves, there's a lot of potential with this card.
Yeah, definitely. If you're focusing it on like the unique dwarfs, but if you're just running a standard dwarf swarm, this contract wouldn't work.
Right, but now you kind of have the option. Now you have a new way to build your dwarf deck.
Well, but you can't swarm with this deck because as soon as you reach 9,
you're cut down.
You can't put any more into play, right? So you're stuck. Now, is there a way to go from 8 to 10? So, like with a very good tail, you put two allies into play. Does it go from 8 to 10 and you bypass, or?
Well, I think it would be you pick the 9th and then the other one gets discarded.
Now we're into rules discussion about this thing. But it seems like there's a limit. It's trying to like, okay, you can play that dwarf deck and really get some buffed up dwarves. Maybe makes a lot of sense with some of the recent errata with the Erebor Battlemaster now is +4, but now with Dine it's +1, and it's always been another +1 with Dine, but then and then +1 with now this card. I don't know, but you can't play the Erebor Battlemaster because he's not unique,
right?
So I don't know, like.
It's just new deck building options, I think.
I think so.
The way this card reads, forced when you control exactly 9 unique characters, flip over the card. So I'm thinking with a card like Very Good Tail, if it doesn't automatically, like you play the 9th and then you discard, it would be like, well, you don't get the benefit from having 10. So you'd have to like sack it off.
Yeah, I think you have to, and then you get to pick which one you want to put into play, right?
Well, I think if a Very Good Tail goes off and you get your 2 allies, you don't fulfill the contract because going from 8 to 10 because you do not control exactly 9.
Yeah, but we'll have to get on and figure out what the rules are with that. Can you bypass it by going up? Because I think the design. I'm not Caleb. I can't get into his brain, but I feel like the design is to limit you from doing the swarm, but the benefit of limiting you from doing the swarm is that everybody gets, like Ted said earlier, the +1 to everything that is, I think the most valuable there is the +1 to every willpower. That's leadership Faramir, all over again. Imagine using leadership Faramir as one of your unique allies, and holy cow, talking about precision questing. You can.
Wow. If you're running Galadriel, Faramir, and Rosie Cotton,
right? Like it's totally wild. I don't know. It's exciting.
Yeah. You could use Hobbit decks will lend itself real well to this. Rosie Cotton will be getting a boost to her willpower, which you'll then be giving to another Hobbit character, anyone that you pick. So you're almost double dipping on the bonus.
But if you have Galadriel's +5 from the Fellowship, plus Faramir +1. That's +6 from Galadriel onto Rosie, which would be at +3 with the contract.
Right.
I mean, do some shenanigans.
There's some shenanigans that he can definitely do, but I think you're limited to 9. I don't think the intention is to get you up to. I think that once you get to 9, somehow, I think that Caleb would rule that it's done, even if you try to a very good tail. That's
what I'm saying. If you use a very good tail and you're allowed to get out that 10th, you do not fulfill the contract. Therefore, you can flip over. I think.
Right. I would agree as well. It's not how the card is intended to work.
Yeah, I feel like that's not intended.
I think when the 10th comes out, you then have to sack off one of the 10th if you want to use the contract.
But you can't just get rid of a 10th. You just wouldn't be able to put the 1 into play, right?
What I'm saying is, you could either not put the 1 into play, or you would literally have to sacrifice it to an enemy to get rid of it. Trump block.
Unless you're playing Hills of Emmanuel and then there's no enemies.
Exactly right.
And a very
and that, my friends, would be a very good tale. I don't know. Yeah, womp womp. Well, I don't know. I feel like we've addressed most of the stuff about this card. I mean, we tried to make some conjecture about what other contracts could be. We talked about its usage. Apologies to the audience who read the article in depth. We were just so excited about getting on the air and presenting this. So, Ted, good catch on the read there about how to about how it's going to work.
Yeah, we did a little bit of speculation, but there's a little bit of detail in the article there. So it's just like everything else, Read just what does this card do? Why don't you read it?
Right.
I'll tell you what it does if you read the words.
Right. But even then, sometimes Radagast staff, read those words and then still not going to tell you. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. RTFA.
Read the freaking artwork.
Yeah. Read the freaking article.
Read the freaking article. Okay. And I don't know about you guys. I'll go with whatever you say, but I don't know if I'm comfortable ringing this because it's such a different mechanic for the game. It's like trying to take a card that you've never seen before and seeing how it works. I don't know if I feel comfortable saying, "Hey, this is a 7-ring card" until I actually play it and get it in my hot little hand.
Yeah, it's a little hard to judge the cards without being.
I think we'll have to wait on this card until
I agree,
or until there's a few more contracts, so then we can accurately have a baseline.
At least build a picture of what that mechanic's going to look like. Yeah,
but it's innately got some power, and it's just another. It's like every other card in the card pool. You don't have to use it, but it's got its uses.
Yeah. Originally, I thought when we first started probably an hour ago talking about this, I was like, this is going to be a meta-changing card because it's so different. But now that I've talked myself off, or you guys have talked me off that, I don't think it's going to change the meta. I just think it's going to create a different type of deck because it's designed so well. Yes,
very well designed card.
Right.
I'm gonna continue to think of ways to get this to be fulfilled as quickly as possible. Eorth just came to mind too. She's a 0 cost unique ally.
Yeah, Galleon.
Galleon is 0. Yep.
Right. I'm thinking you could do this pretty easily first turn with a good draw.
Yeah, you could do a turn 2 easily.
Okay, so should we try it one more time just to go through like if you do Eorth? Well, you do Eorth, Galleon. Right.
They're both 0s. There's 2.
That's 2. So we're at
Hennemarth
5.
is 1.
Hennemarth is 1. So now we're at 6. And then
you could do Sam, Gamgee ally for 1, and
then build a pony for 0. And so that's 2. So we've spent 2 resources. Now we have one more resource.
And that's 8 allies out on turn 1.
But we still have one more resource without any resource shenanigans. So where do we? There has to be another 1-cost unique ally somewhere.
If you're using Brima, you could doom 1 and get out Arwen and Dominate.
Right. You could also use Leadership Denethor and have that 3, and then use it to get out Keely and
Leadership.
Feely.
Yep. Leadership Denethor, Grima, Arwen and Domiel, the hero, could just give you a resource by discarding a card.
Yeah, so then you're at the 2 extra resources.
But the trick will be drawing all of those. So I'm sure it will probably be another Aristor Arwen deck where you just try to like spit out all these unique allies first turn.
Right. But then does it really help you win this scenario? You know, like it's fun to do, but I don't know if it's really going to help you do anything with it.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, what else do we have to say?
Nothing. It's not enough. It's going to be pure speculation again on the ringing. So I think it's just kind of a wait and see, but I definitely look forward to it being published.
Yeah. Grant, last gasp?
Nothing from me. I think it's all been said.
Okay. So, everybody, this was our spoiler on the Fellowship, the card Fellowship that's a contract. And join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day, everybody. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.